these several sources, and they basically say at this point that it was really early in the morning, that it was a couple and their child in this apartment unit. They were allowing a female cousin of theirs to stay with them. Into the nighttime, sources say this female started acting a little strange. They all went to bed anyways. During the night, in the middle of the night, that female cousin, again, now a suspect apparently, came and woke that couple up and started asking, do you believe in God? Apparently was very persistent about it. Sources say when this couple answered, yeah, I believe in God, that this female cousin then started beating them with some kind of tool. They were able to get away. They went to a neighbor's house, called 911. When officers got to the scene, they found smoke coming from that apartment unit and a child wrapped in a blanket in a bathtub, dismembered. Again, police sources telling us this is what happened.
Salutations, my friends, and thank you for tuning in to another edition of my Occult World series. I have titled this one, Steps Out of the Shadows, simply because we're going to be looking at things that illustrate this, whether it be Satanists leading invocations or the establishment of old temples. Who knows? But we will be looking at things such as this that illustrate the idea that we're living in a broader, more paranormal, supernatural world than we think. But that being said, let's jump right into it. I wanted to first give my hat off, a tip, to Father Amroth, or Father Gabriel Amroth, a man, a 91-year-old man that has spent his entire life, basically, fighting Lucifer, fighting the devil, sending the evil spirits back to hell. And what I find more notable, and I'll get into this as we go into this actual article, what I find notable is that he himself makes it a thing to say that demonic possession, or at least people who are afflicted by demonic oppression, is strictly not a Christian thing. So with that being said, let's get into the article. If there's something strange in your neighborhood and you think that it might be because you were using a Ouija board or playing Charlie Charlie, who are you going to call? Over 70,000 people or their concerned relatives and friends reportedly called Father Gabriel Amroth, the chief exorcist of the Diocese of Rome, founder and president for life of the International Association of Exorcists, lover of the Exorcist movie, and hater of their Harry Potter books and yoga. If you're in line to see him, put down the Ouija board and call someone else. Unfortunately, Father Amroth has passed away at the age of 91. The age of 91. I'm going to let that set in for you guys. Think about that. 91. And he's still conducting exorcism, still doing work for God, still leading the righteous charge. Right. Let me get back into this article. The late Father Gabriel Amroth, from their mouths, anything can come out. Pieces of iron as long as a finger, but also rose petals. Father Amroth loved The Exorcist, the original 1973 film, and claimed it gave an accurate, though exaggerated, depiction of what happens during an exorcism. The practice of removing demons, evil spirits, and other entities from people who believe they're possessed or show signs of possession. While primarily associated with the Roman Catholic Church, exorcisms are also performed in Hinduism, Judaism, Taoism, and in Islam. During his time as the world's leading exorcist, he saw a number of exorcisms and exorcists grow dramatically. There's over 200 here in the U.S., one for each diocese. Think about that, guys. In his time frame, he was even able to notice how things have ratcheted up, how more exorcisms are occurring, how more exorcists are coming out, because they're spreading their occult influence. They're growing, they're amassing more power. So much so that they had to build the Ark. Yes, the Ark of Triumph, or the Ark that was a gateway to the Temple of Baal. It's going up in New York City's Hall Park on Monday. And the article goes like this: if you try to put up a large cross in a public park in New York City, there would be lawsuits flying all over the place, but apparently an ancient pagan ark that served as a gateway to the Temple of Baal is no problem at all. On Monday, September 19th, a reconstructed version of Palmyra's Ark of Triumph, also known as the Monumental Ark, will be erected in New York City. Specifically, it will be located in City Hall Park in Manhattan. The organization behind this project is known as the Institute for Digital Archaeology, and they have confirmed the location and the date on their official website. So now we have more. We have more people declaring what I would consider satanic statements. Whenever I had visited this issue initially, it was right around the Prince's death. The idea that, I forget the exact date that he died on. Was it April 21st, I think? April 21st or April 18th, I'm not entirely sure. I know it was sometime in April because it was also the Queen's birthday. Prior to that, she had made not going to go down that path. What it is I'm trying to tell you guys with the idea of them building the arch, building a gateway, building a temple, basically, is them sending statements saying to come through, to come in, to say that these things are okay. I had tried to do research and see if Babylon, Assyria, and Syria all had connection. Basically what I'm trying to get at here in an extraordinarily vague way is by having these temples here, by having these monuments to these pagan gods, to these new gods, to Baal, that allows for new gods, for these old gods to be resurrected, for these old ways to be resurrected here in this modern world. I mean, they say Satan, Lucifer, is the principality of the airwaves, right? Of air. What do we use these days? What can Satan control? The airwaves. He can control the radio. What new principalities will be built once, or will be established, or will be achieved once we start merging things like the Ark of Triumph in New York City? Think about that, guys. The Ark of Triumph in New York City, while simultaneously they built some weird Hellraiser looking complex. Yeah, some mysterious Hellraiser cube. It was erected at the World Trade Center complex. A mysterious cube reminiscent of the occult Lamarchand box featured in the movie Hellraiser has been erected at the World Trade Center complex in New York. So these are two different occult monuments, basically, that are being erected in New York City. And this is all following the attacks in New Jersey and Manhattan, as well as in Minnesota. Signals that our time frame, the time that we're in, the occult world that we're in, that these minions, that these servants of another god are here, and that they have friends. And whenever I say friends, I mean friends in high places. On my previous occult video, I talked about how Satanists were leading invocations to start American civil government. Now, the Satanic Temple intends to open an international headquarters in Massachusetts. And I know, some people have told me these guys are bothering no one. There's nothing wrong with what's going on here. Christianity's been doing it for a while. Yeah, well, I understand that. But religious liberty, religious freedom, these types of things, you guys have got to stop deluding yourself. These people are trying to explain to you and show you in so many different ways. If it's not from, like I said before, the satanic 80s, the wave of the 80s, planting the seeds that are coming into fruition now, well, then it's things like this, you see. So regardless of if you think that they're not hurting anyone, well, clearly they've done their job. Clearly, they're paying more attention than you think. And I'm not sure if people really are. I mean, for example, today, September 21st, as I'm working on this video, this is a satanic holiday. It's the midnight host ritual. This is where, apparently, we'll see all kinds of blood, dismemberment of bodies, of hands, all kinds of different things like this. So be on the lookout for that. You may not operate in this world, but that does not mean that there are not people that do. That's the only thing I can tell you. They represent and work for a different God. They work for a different purpose. And this is what religious freedom is, for sure. However, when you break it down, right now we are dealing with a radicalized version of Islam, or at least a co-opted version of Islam. They say they can kill us. Their God says they can. Just because they don't talk about their tenets and the things that they go by publicly does not mean that they don't go by certain things that you know they do. I mean, in my other previous video, I talked about how in the Oklahoma City Black Mass, they were performing the consummation of Mary, mocking Mary, Mother of Christ, Mary Magdalene. And now they're establishing international headquarters in Massachusetts. They've already taken down the 10 Commandments in Oklahoma City. You see what I'm saying? There's so many different things that you have to look at when analyzing this. Let's get in this article real quick. Salem residents are feeling unsettled after receiving word that the Satanic Temple is moving its international headquarters to an old Victorian mansion in the Massachusetts town. The nationally recognized political and religious organization will open the doors of its new command center on Friday. The building is a former funeral home located around the corner from an elementary school. So perfect. Not only do they have enough children to prey on, but they also have young minds to infect, because if you have not heard, apparently they're offering Satan after school. Okay, all of this ties into the idea that they have already bridged the world, that they have already come out openly. They are trying to, as I said before, advance their agenda, right? More recently, the Bridge Street structure operated as the Salem Art Gallery. The Satanic Temple plans to continue holding exhibits at the site. Organization spokesman Lucian Greaves says the satanic, quote, isn't an attack on anybody, and stressed that members won't be going door to door or affecting neighbors' lives in any way, in any ways that they can see. You see, as I commonly say, I feel like with Satanists, with these Luciferians, and even politicians to some degree, you have to look at what they say upside down. Forgive me for being paranoid, but I don't think that this is something that should be ignored. You see, another thing that I don't think, or actually one thing that I made sure was not ignored, was the fact that in California, Satanists were also conducting rituals on 6/6/16 to help raise awareness for Satan. And as I've said before, these are all systematic things that are happening in succession, in frequency, shorter spans as well, that are affecting the global output. You see, right here, U.S. alarm, unprecedented demonic outpouring. Okay, and this is where they were covering the Oklahoma City Black Mass, the consummation of Mary. And as I just led off with, or came back from, however you want to look at it, the Satanic Temple opening its international headquarters, they're making their move. They're coming out. They're making the steps out of the shadows. They're rising, you see. So sure, yeah, they might not be kidnapping children like the Vatican is, or certain parts of the cartel, you see, or certain parts of ABC letter agencies, however you want to put it. But these things are still happening. Rituals are still occurring publicly. I mean, even at the DNC with Hillary Clinton, we saw how some crazy-looking person was chanting and meditating for Hillary there. We have people that are openly coming out, doing rituals, channeling spirits, dabbling in the occult, dabbling in magic, because they feel no longer will they be chastised. Maybe this is because of the New Age movement, maybe because this is of weakened Christian mindset, weakened mindset at all. Who knows? Regardless, these people who take on the characteristics of the adversary of humanity, or at least the liberator of humanity, in their eyes, they're organizing and they're becoming stronger, and they're affecting politics as well as the spiritual warfare, the things that are being decided on a spiritual realm here in the world. Because they're coming together, they're chanting, they're kidnapping people, they're kidnapping children, they're doing sacrifices to their God. And that's what I want to make clear. The establishing of two occult complexes, and Satanists now opening up their international headquarters, not in New York, in the same time frame that they had to establish the Ark of Triumph. I feel like people need to pay attention to just that alone. So yes, there is an unprecedented demonic outpouring. But that's all I really have for you guys. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. I'll have it in the description bar below. And as always, guys, stay vigilant, expose lies, and share truth. This is Noise Era, Freedom Faction, out.